on the phone, so. Huh? Remember when I told him to sit down? Were you there at that meeting? No, you weren't there. He got all happy with me and I said.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 4:42. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We do have 6 people present, 2 on the phone. Mr. Hutchinson and Dr. Pingarelli are both on the phone, and there are 4 other governing board members, and there is 1 vacancy. All right, the first item is adoption of the agenda, and I would ask that if we could move the policy section up, which is item number 13, to follow number 8, call to the public. And the reason I would like to do that is we have our attorney present, and the longer she is here, the more we're going to pay. So if we can move that up, we'll save a few $1,000s, I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda with the noted moving of the policies to after section 8.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Hutchinson, you're on mute, so can I assume you're a yes?
Mr. Chair, I did unmute and say aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to introduce Corino Crisco, our Communication Instruction Administrative Assistant.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Good way.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Karina. If you don't take a moment of silence. All right, moving on to item number 5, approval of the minutes. Ms. Markham, were there any corrections to the minutes? Does the board have any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All right, Mr. Miglerino, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Kaltenbach seconded. I'll call for the question. All in favor of the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes 6-0. Moving on to current events, Superintendent Donovan.
I have nothing for you this afternoon.
All right, I do, because I don't believe Mr. Kaltenbach will say anything, but Mr. Kaltenbach was the Ag Teacher of the Year, I believe?
No, I was the Ag Mentor Teacher of the Year.
Ag Mentor Teacher of the Year. And so I think he would not say a thing about it, so I wanted to...
I was going to hope not to say anything about it.
Well, that's exactly why I brought it up first. Does the board have anything else to, and congratulations, it's well deserved. Anything else?
Congratulations.
You can pay me back when I'm Ag Mentor of the Year.
Fair enough.
Anybody else have anything? See, it's a tough act to follow. There's nothing else after that. All right, moving on to item number 7, consent agenda.
So move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Mr. Kay. There's no discussion because it is consent agenda, so I'll call for the question. All in favor is the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, one opposition, so it passes 5-1. All right, moving on to call to the public. Ms. Markham, I have no cards. Would anyone from the public like to address the board? Anyone from the public would like to address the board? All right, hearing none, we will move on to item number 13, the policy presentation. Dr. Erb. This is the first reading of several policies.
Okay, Chairman Strinka, members of the governing board. As Chairman stated tonight, this is the first reading for these policies. I'm going to go through them sequentially. As board members know, this is the first reading. We have a month for you to make recommendations for any modifications or if any research, if you want us to look into any of the statutory changes that have been sent to us. I do have laid out here the House bills and most of the Senate bills where most of these policies were changed. So I can go to them if you need me to go to them, and I have to get another hand to help me out a little bit, but we'll work our way through it. The first one is BD Outfits Advisory Committee. This is just a clarification. It's not a statutory change. It was changed and modified for the board if they call for an advisory committee that they make sure that they follow the standard Robert's rules, that we have to post the meetings, they have to take minutes of the meeting, and that they have to make sure that they have minutes from the meeting if they're making recommendations to the board, and also that they have to follow the open meeting law.
I have one question. It's probably very elementary, and I probably should know the answer, but what does BDF stand for?
Is that BDF?
You want me to answer?
Yes. I
Um,
don't have it in front of me.
Mr. President and Ms. Wiley, I had the same when I started practicing law.
There's a whole bunch of them. I don't want to answer.
So B is the first letter is the chapter it's in, which is B is board operations, I believe, in the policy book. And then D and F are just the numbers of the policy. Rather than like B-1, B-2, B-3, this is how they number it. I will admit, when I first started practicing school law, I had the same question and curious look over what that meant. But that's how they are numbered. If you ever see the policy book, you'll see.
So it's just in the policy book to do with education?
No, it's your governing board policies.
So you know, like the Arizona revised statutes are
Yeah, that's what I know.
15-9. So in school board, they just use letters instead. So like IHAMD tells you a chapter and a section and a thing and a thing. So the letters, it's not an acronym. It's just
So section,
that's just
section A is general overall. It's a very short section. Section B is board rules by which the board governs itself. Section C is general administration. Section G is, I'm skipping over some. Section D and E are the finance sections. Section G is personnel. Thank you. I'm getting down to where I don't remember what they are. Section I is students.
Okay, so that's, all right, I see all this. Thank you.
Just leave it there or bring it up
Okay.
here and we'll,
Okay.
there's other questions.
Dr. Erb?
Yes.
Mr. Shakes, is it okay?
Go for it.
Just to clarify, like all of our programs as a result of state and federal funding being career and technical education have to have advisory committees. This is specifically just advisory committees created by this board to help this board and not talking about those kinds of advisory committees.
Board advisory committees, not district advisory.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Sorry. Okay.
All right.
Proceed.
The second one falls under the same thing, board rules of order. This policy was an addition. Where it's added a letter G, where the governing board chairman may recess the meeting without a vote of the governing board in order to maintain decorum and the governing board meeting rules of order. I imagine that was an addition because of some of the issues that have been going on with governing boards throughout the valley and throughout the nation. Okay, moving to the next one. Again, board member development opportunities. This one here is where the state statute comes in, where they've changed where no public monies can be used for the training, orientation, or therapy that presents any form of blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex. This does not include any training on sexual harassment because we have to provide that as part of a public school district to our staffs. So that's BIB under the board. The regulation, if you can turn to that, if you have it in front of you on page 9, the regulations, this comes from statute, and it lists 7 different items that are listed there that boards, we can't receive training and spend money on any type of training that provides any information, training sessions on how someone would be teaching someone and blaming someone under the basis of race, ethnicity, sex, as defined by the statute. So this is actually the statutory change. There's 3 of them in a row here. It also doesn't permit our teachers, if you go to the next one, under GCH, this is professional support staff orientation and training. This statute, again, doesn't permit West-MEC or any public school district to provide any training to any employee to engage and shall not use public monies for training, orientation, or therapy that presents any form of blame or judgment based on the same race, ethnicity, or sex. And again, it has the same 7 definitions there. Under IMB, this is about the same, teaching controversial, sensitive issues. Again, at the bottom of page 12, teacher, administrator, or other employees of a school district charter who is involved with students and teachers in grades preschool through 12th grade may not use public monies for the instruction that presents any form of blame, judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex. And then it lists the same. So as you read through these, you have a month. What jumped out at me is on page 13, and it's in the previous policies. They use the word insidious, and that's action to arouse or incur resentment or anger in others. If you as a board wanted to change that word and clarify it so that it's more understandable, you could direct administration to look into modifying that word because I don't know standard protocols. If someone saw it, parents saw it, they'd actually know what the definition is. The other one in there is meritocracy. It's a system or organization or society in which people are chosen and moved into positions of success, power, or influence on the basis of their demonstrated ability or merit. So if the board has thoughts about changing those 2, this is your policy. We can modify or add those definitions next to the words if the board has any direction or has a preference. So with that, I'll pause for a minute. Those are 3 successions in a row. 1 for the board, 2 for support staff, 3rd for teachers. So I'll take any comments if you have any at this time
I
with
think
those
we should
3.
put a camera in all the classes.
And under the statute, if you are found to have violated this policy, I believe it's a $5,000 fine. And this is also in statute. So we can add a little bit of wording, but we can't change the statute as it was presented and approved by the Senate and the House and the governor.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of wondering what the reason was for adding the item to give the chair the ability to dismiss a meeting without a vote. Was there a catalyst or something, or is this is what's going on around the nation with all the school board meetings, and we need to do something about it?
I see our legal counsel is nodding her head. Would you like to,
Mr. Straka, Mr. Hutchinson, I believe this is, first of all, it doesn't change the law. Under Robert's rules and other provisions, you don't need a vote of the board to recess or adjourn, and it is intended to address, I think, what happened in some other school districts, and particularly one that is not in Maricopa County, but that has had some meetings that the best way to diffuse some hot tempers and was to recess for a period of time and come back.
Thank you. I'm not sure I support that particular change, but I do understand the reason.
we have been doing that on occasion. We all dismiss the meeting without a motion. All right,
Okay,
continue on, sir.
okay, if you go to page 14 in your book or online, audits, financing, monitoring. This is a statutory change. I believe previously, this has been one of the presentations and the goals that Superintendent Donovan has had under the audits. This statutory change states that we have to have the audit report done in a public meeting. It can't be on the consent agenda. It has to be presented and approved by the board.
And by a roll call vote.
Yes. Okay, the next one is under the purchasing. On page 16, the governing board may provide food and beverages at district events, including school functions and trainings as allowed by the Arizona Constitution and policies of the Department of Education. So that's the only change in policy DJ. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving on. Other board member, if you have questions, just feel free to ask. Under page 18 on GCB, this is professional staff contracts and compensations. This is a statutory change that was made, that all school districts have to provide compensation statements to all of their employees on a yearly basis. I'm here to report that Superintendent Donovan's been doing this for the last 10 years. I think Mrs. Wiley one year asked to see what a compensation statement looks like. This has been formalized. We do this every year. We're in the process of preparing those compensation statements for our employees that were here the whole year last year. We'll be sending those to them in October. So this is the professional contracts. Also on the next one is also support staff. So we do it for both certified, administrative, and our support staff. And it's the same language. It's in GDB. Okay, page 22. This is professional staff hiring. They inserted, we've been doing this, I think it was 6-7 years ago, districts were encouraged or by statutory requirement to do reference checks on employees. At that time, I believe the board said, why don't we start doing background checks? So we implemented background checks. I think it was Mr. Straka, Chairman Straka, that said, can we institute that as part of our check on hiring new employees? This one here, we do it on a yearly basis. We have what is called a CIDR report. We send it to the Department of Education. Then they can return to us immediately whether someone's certificate has been revoked or is under investigation. And now they've added to this that certified or classified support staff also are on that list that's submitted to the Arizona Department of Education. So they've added that language in there. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next page 26. Support staff hiring. The same thing, we just did the certified and teacher. This is the support staff training. Again, we have to follow up with the State Board of Department of Education and the State Board of Education to make sure that all of our employees have not been found to violate the law, or their certificate, or their employment, or their fingerprint may be in jeopardy. We do, as a matter of information, Superintendent Donovan and I receive almost daily from the Department of Public Safety fingerprint cards that have been revoked. And I think it was 2 years ago, I was surprised how many on a daily basis throughout the state of Arizona. We haven't had any here from West-MEC, but there are every day at least 4, 5, or 6 that are being revoked. It doesn't say what reason, it just says that their fingerprint card has been revoked. And if they don't have a fingerprint card, we cannot employ them. Yes?
From time, doesn't necessarily mean the person's guilty if they are arrested under certain circumstances, including but not limited to domestic violence. The fingerprint card is revoked until it is reinstated some way. And I represent a school district where there was an argument between a husband and wife. Husband reported it as domestic violence, so she's been out of a job for 2 months. But it doesn't necessarily mean they've been found guilty.
Okay, page 29, I see this is the school year. I'm gonna have Superintendent Donovan jump in, but statutorily, last year they gave districts authority to modify their yearly schedules. They still have to meet the minimum requirements for the hours that are required. We also gave that authority to CTEDs. Superintendent Donovan's been working on this for years and years, but once it was approved, the department is still working on rules to see how they apply it to CTED. So I'll let him, he knows more about it because the CTED superintendents have been discussing it, but I'll let him add to that.
Thank you, Dr. Herb, Mr. Chairman, and board members. This is, in my opinion, could be an exciting and lengthy conversation. But in a nutshell, forever, for 150 years since statehood, which isn't 150 years, so since statehood, school districts have operated on a day schedule. So many hours a day for 180 days, Monday through Friday. We've talked about this. So as an example, for years and years, our EMT, Emergency Medical Technician program, would have a monthly Saturday class. We could not count that class towards instructional time because there was no way to count Saturdays. Because statutorily, school was Monday through Friday from this certain date in August to this certain date in May, period. We now have greater flexibility, as you see within this, to set schedules based more on hours and not just days. What else does that do for us? Historically, second semester, so that semester that starts after the holiday break, we technically only got funded for about 10 days, and we educate students the rest of the year for free. We could not start a spring-only semester class or program because we only received 10 days of funding. So you push everything to the fall, et cetera, et cetera. EMT, again, is a one-semester program. We couldn't run effectively and efficiently and financially prudently in the spring because we only got 10 days worth of funding out of 90 days. We now have the ability to work with you as a school board to set calendars that work around instructional time. We simply call it any day, any time, because the world has changed. They changed the rules for online schools because we know teenagers love to stay up at night. The largest login time for online high school is 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. And that's perfectly acceptable. But in a traditional setting, we had to have a set start time and an afternoon end time that started in August and end, you get the point. We have modernized our ability to address instructional time. And so as you see, we will have a couple of meetings to publicly say, here's how we're going to do this. As you all know already, West-MEC operates under a number of calendars. Aviation that runs 30 days longer than some of the other programs, et cetera, et cetera. So this helps CTEDs greatly, but as in all things, all districts now have the option of adjusting it more around instructional time, not just another example. If you're meeting 3 hours or 4 hours a day for our CTE program, and you can get it done in a semester, why did we have to continue having class? because of some antiquated law when great-great-grandma was still bringing reports to the Department of Ed in a horse and buggy. We've modernized it. We're excited.
If I may add, Mr. Straka, Mr. Donovan. Mr. Donovan has been very, very instrumental in leadership in getting this type of legislation. It benefits all school districts, but what was happening is that you were having to have your schedules be approved by the Arizona Department of Education. And if they weren't approved, or you had a little glitch and then you had some sort of activity on a Saturday and you tried to count it for an ADM, you got audited, which were expensive, and you had have to hire people like me for a hearing. The other instrumental thing is they took it out of the hands of the Arizona Department of Education, and now it's in the hands of the school board if you want to have an alternative schedule. So there's no longer that logjam at ADE, which has gone on for years, deciding whether you should be counting a certain activity as. And so it's really beneficial to all school districts, particularly the CTEs.
Thank you. Very good.
And as Superintendent Donovan, if the board decided to go to an alternative schedule, we have to have the two public meetings and more likely approved by the board. Okay, page 30 is instruction and training in suicide prevention. We have been doing this for numerous years, but they added in statutory requirements that we have to have an identification card issued to students in grades 9 through 12 with one of the 4 items: a telephone number of a national suicide prevention lifeline, national network, or a telephone number for a local suicide prevention hotline. We have a picture here real quick. Shelley's here. We've been doing this for 3 or 4 years?
Couple years.
Okay, so this is the number that's on the back of the individual cards for each of our students that attend West-MEC. Each school district is required to meet one of those 4 conditions, and we have it where it's accessible to our students. And mandatory reporting, training has been done with our staff and also the students at each of our schools. Okay, the next one is page 32 in this instructional materials. This is just a change. I think board member Kaltenbach has asked numerous years about electronic textbooks. This one definitely defines that you can have textbooks electronically. So in the first paragraph, means printed instructional material as well as digital content. So they clarified it and made it official. Page 34, same thing. This is selection of materials and adoption. It can be digital or print. On page 36, the next one, a mission of resident students. They've added to the last item, if you look on page 38, they now have added for registration and for entrance into one of our programs that a consular identification card. So I went online the other day to look and see what it looks like. It is a consular. It had one from Mexico that we could accept a consular card. As I was looking through it, there are some states that won't accept it. The state of Texas will not accept consular cards from Mexico for enrollment of students into their public school. So the state of Arizona did approve this as an additional form of identification that a student or a parent could bring to enroll in our programs. So that's an additional change there, and it is a statutory change. Page 40, tuition of admission of non-resident students, the same thing on page 42. They've added the consular identification card again.
Is the consular identification card in lieu of?
It can be in lieu of, but if you look on page 42, these are all of from A, Mrs. Wiley, to O. These are all of the different forms of identification when a student comes to enroll on page 42 in a West-MEC program. We need to have one of these forms of identification. And is So this can be one of the two forms. Okay, page 44, student discipline. On the page 44, well, go to page 45. They've taken out information concerning a student's disciplinary record will be held in strict confidence. They also took out, or crossed out, disciplinary action taken will be recorded in an administrative log. All they did is moved it from that page to the front page. So if you look on page 44 and look at the I said moved up from page 44. If you look down just before temporarily removal, information concerning a student's disciplinary record will be held in strict confidence. We have to do that for FERPA reasons and good practice. Disciplinary action taken will be recorded in an administrative log. So they just moved it from one page to the other and moved it up. Then on page 45, this is where we can use an attorney. They've added a section here regulating off-campus speech. And if you read through it, while a district may regulate certain types of off-campus student speech, it must be mindful of students' rights of expression under the First Amendment. And then it gives you some circumstances that may, where a district, if it became an issue that caused classroom disruption or school disruption, it listed A, B, C, and D, and then listed some information items under C, lessons, the writing of papers, the use of computers, breaches of school security. The district may take affirmative steps to work with students short of discipline to engage in future respectful and accountable digital citizenship. So with this, it also said you need to be really careful. I know in some districts they will have what is called a good neighbor policy, which means they're responsible for students on the way to and from. But we don't have students that are walking to our schools or riding the buses. Our students get there to and from. They've added this as a way that a district could take some disciplinary action, but they're also cautioned that you need to work with your district attorney if you decided to take action to make sure you were following all the statutory requirements, because it is off-campus activities. Do you want to add anything?
Only to add that I believe that the genesis of this change is because of the United States Supreme Court ruling in what we call shortly the cheerleader case, where the court found that the school district went too far in disciplining her. So now they're trying to put out the factors to help the school district determine when it's appropriate to discipline a student for off-campus behavior.
Can you give an example of that? I mean, to me, this sounds, without understanding the whole thing, controlling off-campus.
Okay. It has to have, well, the easiest part is it has to have a link to the school district. So
Have it
if
linked to the school district.
what the school district does. Yeah, I'll give you an example that is the most concrete and that has actually happened and that I've been involved in. A student posts online himself with a gun and says, somebody's gonna get hurt tomorrow. That's the type of speech, off-campus speech. He's doing it on his own computer, on his own time, but can you discipline that type of behavior? And the answer is probably yes under these, because if you can show that the threat was real or even not real, but it disrupted the educational process.
And then the Supreme Court case she was talking about was a cheerleader went on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and she was cursing about her school, using foul language, and they kicked her off the cheerleading squad because she had posted this at home, and then that went all to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's like, well, all right, but she had freedom of speech, so they should not. The Supreme Court said they should not have kicked her off the cheerleading. She was punished for just free speech. So this is like trying to, where are you threatening and where is it free speech and where that line is?
It's a fine line.
It's a very difficult,
Yeah,
it's a difficult line.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next one is immunizations, page 47. This is a statutory requirement where it says school district and charters may not require a student or teacher to receive a vaccine for COVID-19 or to wear face masks coverings to participate in in-person instruction.
All I add, I'm not taking a dive into making a political statement. Believe me, it's the first thing I ever want to do, but right now this is in litigation, as you probably have read. So we don't know where or when that, there's 2 cases, 2 lawsuits right now. We don't know where or when that's going to be resolved.
Okay, page 49, JLF, reporting child abuse and child protection. This change here is that each school operated by a school district shall post a clearly visible location in a public area of the school that is readily accessible to students, a sign that contains all of the following. So in the last 2 weeks, Shelley, Tom, and Communications put together this poster that has all that information on there. This will be sent to building principals. They will post it in every one of the buildings on their individual campuses. I think it'll show up pretty readily.
Question.
Question from Mr. Okay.
And maybe this is for Mrs. Siegel. So, going back, so the legislature happened, they signed it, died, they're done, they're laws. Our friends have gone through all the laws, and these are all the law changes that have occurred, and these are your board policies that should change in order to be in line with the law, and these are their suggestions. Correct so far?
Yes, Mr. Kaltenbach.
Okay. What is the timeline on that? So like my question is more specifically about the immunization one, knowing that it's in legislation and all that, and while the legislature just finished and did their thing, we know it's in court. So if we next month came in and, presumably approved all of them except JLCB and just like held that off, like we know that they wrote the law, we're not going to adjust our board policy yet because we want to see what's happening in the court. Are we violating anything by waiting on that?
Mr. Kaltenbach, I don't believe you are, but I would just advise you, who knows when, first of all of this legislation becomes effective on September 29th. And secondly, I would recommend going ahead and adopting it and then repealing it if that happens, because litigation takes a long time and we won't know.
And if in the intervening time in October or November we have an issue with a student and we haven't adopted the new policy, we're now against state statute and all that, et cetera. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
In my mind, I'm not a litigator in that case, so I don't really know, but it's going to go from Superior Court and make its way up to the Arizona Supreme Court. You can.
So as of September 9th, this will be the
29th.
law of the land.
As of September 29th.
September,
it's
yeah.
the law in Arizona.
And so then it would be, all right, thank you.
So can we adopt it conditionally, that if it's repealed, that would automatically, we would?
Mr. Strack, I would go ahead and adopt it, and then if and when the court of highest, whatever jurisdiction decides that, then you can change it.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's completes, I believe.
Reporting child abuse?
Yeah, we did the child abuse one, so I think that completes all of those tonight. Again, for the next month, if any of you have additions, suggestions, want to talk about any of these individual policies, you can email Superintendent Donovan, myself. We'll be happy to have a discussion on the phone with you, through email, however you would like to communicate any of your thoughts on any of these policies. Just in closing, I think all of you know, and this is a policy thing, that we're coming upon our cognitive visit, which is coming up in October. It's gonna be virtual. I did send out an email reminding the governing board to review the powers and responsibilities, the ethics policies. One is BBA, BCA, so they're all in the board area, and board evaluation. If you could just make sure that you've looked at it. We did ask for a response because when Cognia comes in, some of you will be interviewed by Cognia and their interviewers, and they're gonna ask you, have you looked at those policies? So specifically, I can rescind them out if you want me to do it, but if you could, make sure you have an opportunity to look through those three. With that,
Is an email acceptable, or do we need to sign a
yes,
form?
I
Email is
received
acceptable?
I've received 2 responses back.
And you sent it out.
Yes, and I can resend it. I pulled it up today, so I can
You might want to.
resend it.
Resend it, because I don't remember seeing it.
All right, I will resend it tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.
I mean,
Ms. Siegel, I believe you can be excused.
thank you.
And Dr. Erb, you can be excused as well, and we'll return to item number 9, legislative update. Spencer Isom.
Board member Straka, members of the board. Anyway, I've got 2 items to update you on with regard to our legislative update. This afternoon, we met with the 14 CTED superintendents, AZ CTED, to discuss this upcoming 21-22 legislative session. I believe it's the second session of the 55th Arizona legislature. We settled on 4 initiatives to move forward this session. The first is transportation funding for central campus students. Currently, the statute treats transportation to and from central campus as if it's a field trip. We are seeking adjustments in the statute that would provide funding treating transportation to and from central campus as it does to and from home to their main campus. The second item is developing a career proficiency and college readiness seal, and that's a special recognition for students in CTE for completing a rigorous set of skills, soft skills, technical skills, and core academics. The third item is statewide articulation. We seek to, through Perkins 4 and now Perkins 5, many states have effectively instituted statewide articulation, giving college credit, encouraging community colleges to give college credit for CTE completers. We're seeking to enact that here in Arizona, so that is one of our items. The fourth item is support for adult CTE programs. This is something that we used to have up to age 22. We are talking about reinstituting some form of that. We haven't discussed exact age limit, that there would be funding to provide young adults the opportunity to complete CTE programs. And the final initiative is support for the continuation of the CTE incentive grant funding and a clarification of ADE's role in administering that grant, the program. The second item is an item that Greg had reported to the board last month that I was going to look into an inquiry that Superintendent Donovan had received from a representative of the board regarding the need to redistrict. He's asked me to research it. I've done so. I've completed I guess you'd call it an issue brief, and submitted a request for legal review from Ms. Segal. Ms. Segal will be reviewing it this month, and hopefully next month we'll be able to share with the board her and my findings on this matter. The two contextual questions that I looked at in reviewing the policy on this was, does West-MEC need to redistrict following the 2020 census? And the second is, if so, then what is the process for methodology for doing so here at West-MEC. So I look to share that with the board in the future. And related to the report that I completed, I wanted to announce to the board that the Maricopa Associations of Governments, I had requested that they look at our district boundaries, our current district boundaries, and overlay them on their data tool for the 2020 census, and they've done so. And the findings are interesting. It shows that we are a district of about grown to about 1.9 million population, and that our current district sizes range from approximately 337,000 for District 4 down to District 3, which is about 254,000. So if you look at the current district size and the current population, the mean population for our districts would be about 278,000. So when we complete our work on the redistricting process, we'll incorporate those findings as well in reporting to the board.
Okay, I understand a little bit about this at fairmaps.com, and I've gone to some of those meetings where you can have input into the new lines, and one of the questions I asked them was, who does the precinct lines? And they said it was the County Board of Supervisors. So in the school districts like this, we could change the lines?
Yeah, you've redistricted a few times in the past, so from what I understand and what I looked at, the process is very similar. There are a couple of nuances that I've made recommendations for our attorney to review, but essentially, from what I can review, the board does approve. There is some question as to whether the original 8 districts would have to also approve it. And then you would ultimately, once you reviewed, or you approved it, and potentially those 8 original districts approved it, then you would basically present that map to the county, and they would then incorporate it into their elections process. So it's not necessarily an approval. And that's kind of up in the air. You may have done that in the past, but I'd like to give Ms. Segal the opportunity to review what I've looked at and give you a final recommendation on it.
We drew our own district
Mr.
lines.
Chair?
Yeah, Dr. Pingarelli?
Mr. Chair, Dr. Isom, thank you for that, those comments on redistricting. Just a question. I know I had requested the constituents per sub-district, and thank you, Superintendent Donovan, and all those involved in getting that information. Are those is the latest census data available? That's my first question. In other words, do we have the final census numbers?
Yes, we do. If you go to the Maricopa Association of Government website, they have posted the 2020 data, and in fact, they have overlaid our districts over it. So I'd be glad to share a link with the board tomorrow as to how you can access that data.
That would be great. And so those tables, the table that we received, does that include the updated census data?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. If you
So,
could...
Dr. Isom, we received from Superintendent Donovan, it was a very good email on constituents per sub-district. Is the latest census data, is that reflected in that table, or does it need to be updated? I guess that's a question for Superintendent Donovan and yourself.
If Superintendent Donovan, would you like to go first, or I'll go first? Go ahead. I think that the data that you have received is going to use the same information that MAG has posted. So they both reports should receive or should be using the same data. There may be a slight difference based on MAG's overlay of our district lines, which may be, the same or similar to that of a consultant that we used that provided you the data in what was emailed to you by Superintendent Donovan.
Okay, so it's fair to say then, I think when I looked at that data, I think Subdistrict 4 had one of the largest increases, and we were a little bit shy in terms of being evenly spaced in terms of constituents in Subdistrict 2. Is that still, is that range still about correct? In other words, in terms of the high and the low?
Yeah, between District 4 and 2, the initial assessment from the data from MAG shows that District 4 is approximately 337,000 and District 2 is about 262,000.
You said the smallest one was 3, right?
I'm sorry?
You said the smallest one was 3.
I did, but Dr. Pingarelli had referenced District 2, I thought.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's what I was saying. So the smallest district is actually District 3 from MAG's data at 254,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, go ahead.
I think, Mr. Chairman, you were starting to make a comment about drawing the lines as we,
Right.
which goes to Ms. Wiley's question.
So I would just, based on what we did in the past, we went through and this is when, Diane was here. She worked with the county and we had an interactive map that we could all create our own, redistricting option. The state requirement, if I recall correctly, was every district where the board member for that district has to remain in that district for the plan.
Oh, so they couldn't cut you out of your district?
You can't be cut out of your district, so if anybody's moved within their district, they still get to, like, I'm in District 7, I would still be in District 7 after the redistricting. You would be in District 4 no matter how much it shrinks. If we shrink it, we can't move you out. Unlike in some states where
Well, I'm
you
only
can,
one house away from whatever district is next to me.
well then, that line won't be moving.
No wonder the question.
No, I don't. I was just curious because I've done it statewide. I've looked at it. I mean, it's an interesting process. I just want to.
It is.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Wiley, this all goes back, without getting super deep in this, to the original plan we submitted. So as an example, Pima JTED, Pima County, their plan stipulates that they will follow the County Board of Supervisors. So they really kind of wash their hands of it. And whatever the County Board of Supervisors does with their districts become the districts for Pima JTED. We didn't submit that kind of a plan. We control our own destiny. We draw our own lines, and then we just submit them to the approval authorities, County Board of Supervisors, Department of Justice, and those kinds of things.
Good, I like having
And
power.
there's a whole public, we're required to have like 13 or 14 public meetings. Attendance has to be taken. There has to be people there. No one showed is not an acceptable statement. So it's quite a process.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
I apologize if I didn't understand the
Oh, that's
question.
all right, I did.
Sounds like you got it answered, so I'm glad. Any other questions? Thank you.
I think we're good. Thank you, sir. I think we're good. We're good, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I apologize for my hearing. I'm gonna get new hearing aids next week.
Let me know how that works.
What?
All right, Mr. Donovan, would you like to introduce our
Mr.
speaker?
Chairman, it's a pleasure to have, and we moved it, so they've been quite diligent. Our Agua Fria Union contingency here tonight to talk about their career and technical programs, and with us we have CTE Director Ann Dozman-Weisner, who is always a pleasure to have here to brag about the great things going on in Agua Fria. Welcome, Ms. Weisner.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Governing Board, Superintendent Donovan, thank you for having us here tonight. And if you remember, it has been a long time since I've been here. The last time I've been here, we figured out was June 2018 due to different circumstances we all know that's happening. And I was here with my cousin district, Glendale Union, and we talked about the CTE family with Amanda Shively. And I have to tell you, when you have a CTE family, what's better than to cook together and to watch movies together? So tonight, I am going to talk to you about our culinary arts programs and our film and TV programs. And so you all have some popcorn courtesy of the Millennium Culinary Arts Program. And I'm also bringing greetings from our new superintendent, Mr. Mark Eastlis. Actually, the Agua Fria School Board nights are the same exact nights as the West-MEC board nights. There's a half-hour difference going on there, so he could not be here tonight, but I know there's an appointment on the books to meet Superintendent Donovan, to meet the assistant superintendents, and he's very excited about that. So let's talk about where we are in CTE in the Agua Fria district. This year we have 6 schools. We added Agua Fria Online Academy. We have 17 programs, 46 teachers, and 60 different courses. Now, 7.5 years ago when I started, it was really interesting because we have TQI coming up this month. And I was talking to the teachers at Verado, and they were laughing at, remember when you started 7.5 years ago, you had 2 weeks to prep us for TQI before West-MEC showed up. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm prepping you right now for TQI. And there were 16 CTE teachers at that time. So we've grown quite a bit. This year, and this is all for the 2021-2022 school year, we have 269 West-MEC seats, which we're very proud of. We have 5,888 satellite seats. Now, this might be duplicated. I did not spend hours and hours pulling out the duplication, so this might be a little bit duplicated, but not too much. So 66% of all of our students in the Agua Fria School District are taking a CTE course this year, which we think is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. And you will see the high schools, the percentage of students who take a CTE course, and their premier program. So each high school has a premier program. And even Agua Fria Online, Coldwater Academy, we've worked all last year to bring in business management. So they get their lab time, and they have a program that is specific to our online school. And we're very proud of it. Our total enrollment as of, what's today, Wednesday? As of Friday was 9,232 students. And we're really happy about that. It was really funny because this year, I would say a third of our teachers are on 5th, 6th, meaning they're teaching during their prep period because we had such an influx of students at the beginning of the school year. We're just very excited about the growth in Agua Fria, and we're excited about the growth of our CTE programs. You will see Canyon View High School, which is a pathway school. Each student has to declare a pathway their freshman year. They have to complete a pathway throughout their 4 years. This year, 81% of the students are taking CTE, and if you looked at that number 2 years ago, it would have been higher. It would have been, I think, 94%, because every freshman and sophomore practically was in a CTE or they were in an arts pathway. So we love that. So the next thing I do want to talk about, now that we talked about all the fun numbers, which are really, really boring and not nearly as fun, is what we've been doing with our CTE money from West-MEC. Of course, we're supporting all these fabulous programs, but I'd like to first introduce Mr. Chris Contreras, who's going to come up with his student and talk to you about what we did during the pandemic. We were not sitting down during the pandemic, just waiting for it to get over. We were building a new cafe. We have 3 teachers that teach culinary arts or baking and pastry, and needless to say, we needed another kitchen so we could get our 51% lab time in. So, Mr. Contreras.
Yes, okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you guys for having me. My name is Chris Contreras. I am one of 3 culinary art instructors at Millennium High School. So yes, last year, again, during the pandemic, we were able to actually get some students into the lab. We did have smaller classes. We actually also did some online, but so we actually broke in the kitchen last year. This year, we're into our 4th lab. And again, the kitchen that we currently have now is kind of like the future of what we're seeing. We have actually 2 kitchens. One kitchen is more of a traditional type of kitchen. The kitchen we currently have has a lot of the latest technology that we'll be using. And again, I did an industry update about 3 years ago. I was working at a lot of different kitchens, and this is the things that I saw in doing this industry update. A lot different than when I was in the industry. So again, a lot of the things that we're doing, we're kind of showing our students what the future looks like. So if you look at the first item here, we have what we call induction stoves. A lot of these you probably have seen them before, but these are very useful in the kitchen. They're very much calibrated and a lot more easier and more functional to use. Definitely you'll see a lot less of our students getting any kind of burns, again, because of the fact that literally it's something that you can literally put a pan on, remove it, it turns off, there's no fire, it stays nice and hot. You can literally put your hand right on it and you don't burn yourself. We also have what we call a blast chiller. So anytime that we're doing any of our labs or we're going to need to cool something down rapidly, we're able to put those in there, and literally in about 10 minutes, we have something that we can start, for instance, frosting cupcakes. We have also what we call above that would be a combi oven, and again, literally this does everything for you. We can literally get a brisket, put it in there, literally I can do it like tonight, cook it, by tomorrow it'll hold, it'll be all done. Okay, so we're just kind of showing the kids the technologies in which they can, again, get an idea of what they can see if they decide to go into the industry. And then, of course, we have some of our more traditional equipment that we use, but we want to introduce them to all of these latest technologies. And again, we do have the other kitchen. Again, they'll see more of the traditional stuff that we do. Here I have Anna, and again, I had her briefly last year online mainly, but we're again into our 4th lab. Can you kind of give me an idea of what you guys were telling, more or less the kind of labs you guys have done in the last 4 weeks or so? So, and what you kind of picked up on so far?
We've made like chicken quesadillas. We made fettuccine primavera earlier this week. And we've kind of been learning how to use all the like equipment in there and techniques on how to make stuff and how to use like basically everything in there and how to like clean our dishes with like the proper equipment in the proper way and that kind of stuff.
So again, another thing is, again, like we're gonna take this a little bit further next week. So again, I did a little demo today. We did what we call the tarte tatin, which is kind of like a French apple pie. And as opposed to being an apple pie, we're just basically using puff pastry, and we kind of invert it into the pan. But one other element we're gonna add to it is we're gonna bring in some liquid nitrogen. And again, obviously we couldn't make ice cream in 30 seconds. Well, this coming Tuesday when we do it, we're gonna actually literally make a base of like half and half. We did a vanilla sugar. We'll add that vanilla sugar into it, into a stand-up mixer, add the liquid nitrogen in there, and you've got instant ice cream that you're gonna top with our tarte tatin. So we're actually taking it a little bit further. We also have what we call, it's called molecular gastronomy, and then we're kind of implementing some of the techniques in there. So we have kits in there. And again, this is a new technology, a kind of new kind of food that is something that it's not going to go away. It's something that's going to stay. And it's basically using science in creating food. And so what we want to do in the future is kind of implement cross-curricular, kind of the chemistry involved. We want to add the historical aspects of everything that we want to do with food. And next week we're getting into the math part of it again. It's part of the whole thing that we need to touch on that, and we'll do some conversions and that sort of stuff. And then this way they're able to kind of get all this together, and then we'll put it together, and then of course do it into the kitchen and kind of demonstrate those things. So we'll do things with scaling and that sort of stuff. Do you guys have any questions?
We could have had ice cream in 30 seconds.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
My question is, of your graduates, approximately, what percent go on into the food service industry?
I would say probably about 10%. Now, I've had a lot of kids that were very, very successful though, in that 10%. They've actually, again, I'm still in contact with a lot of them. We've had students that went on to Cornell University in their hotel restaurant management are doing great. And we're talking kids that are, these are kids that are like 26 years old and running hotels. I just recently had one, and again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Abbey Cakes. They're on Camelback Road. This young man, he won, and again, this is a CCAP event. This is another thing that we implement as well. And he actually won the scholarship for CCAP. He just got hired at Abbey Cakes, and he's so excited about it. He's doing what he wants to do. I have several other students that are actually in New York now, currently own some sushi restaurants. So there's been a lot of success with these kids, and some that I don't even know of that are in that industry.
How many years have you been with that program?
This is my 15th year. And I've
15th year.
seen West-MEC actually grow. I was mentioning to one of the guests here how back I was going to the West-MEC over on Indian School Road back in then. So I've seen you guys grow in these last 10, 15 years. Probably in the last 10 years, I would say.
I was gonna ask you what your background.
Yeah, so again, I've had 30 years of industry experience. So I was the chef at the Wigwam Resort. I was an executive chef at AJ's Fine Foods. So those are mainly the two things that I've actually
So
done.
you got into teaching,
Yes,
and you're like,
and I love it. It's great. It's one of the best moves I've ever made.
That's
Because I'm
great.
still doing the same things, but I'm just kind of giving all the experience that I've had. I'll even tell a story here and there about things
well,
that
the
I've done.
changes that you've seen. I
Oh,
mean,
no,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a life. This is amazing. What we're able to put together.
Latest
in
and
this.
greatest.
Yeah, and again, when I did spend a week in NAU, and basically we modeled this kitchen after NAU's because a lot of the stuff, and again, I teach dual enrollment through Stone Mountain, their credits will transfer over to NAU, which is literally the same kitchen that they have there.
Does the Millennium Cafe, do I have that correct?
Yes.
Does that serve adults, students, both?
We will be doing
Is
those
it
sort of
a
things.
nonprofit or?
No, it's for profit, yes.
We have a
And again-
student-based enterprise. We do have a student-based enterprise, and they do, now I know Deer Valley has their kitchen where they serve dinner at night. They do more catering in Millennium. And so they do catering and they do make money. And I have to say that this whole kitchen was funded by West-MEC funds. We were able to conserve some of our funds throughout the years, and this $1.5 million kitchen was built with West-MEC funds. And I can't take credit for all that. My predecessors had saved quite a bit of money, but when I saw this need, we continued to work on that.
How many actual students are in the program?
Oh, gosh, I would say probably
In the-
about, what would it be, about 300? Close to 300?
Closer to 360,
Yeah,
360
because we have 3 culinary art teachers.
full-time teachers. So,
Thank you, and
Thank you,
again, I
guys.
apologize, like Mr. Strakia, for you having to wait. This young
Not at all.
lady who's all dressed up and looking so professional. Thank you for your indulgence.
Well, thank you, guys. You guys have a nice afternoon.
Maybe you can just, again, remind the board what CCAP is, because you talked about
Oh,
the
yeah,
one student.
absolutely. So
And
what it
maybe
is-
just a comment or two about your FCCLA participation.
Yeah, so again, she's our, Anna's our treasurer, and again, we just had our little meeting last week, so we got those in place. But CCAP is another little avenue where students can earn scholarships, okay? So it's a cooking competition, and again, it's a competition where basically, if you can get through that first round, and again, you're competing against over 200 students. So if you're in that top 40, you've automatically got a scholarship, whether it's $500 or $90,000, and that's going to be based on the second round, which would be the final round. And it's out at Paradise Valley High School. And again, we're going to be doing something in October, Harvest Moon, where we're going to raise money for those scholarships. And then, of course, we have our FCCLA program, which, again, we're basically in our 3rd years. Prior to that, we were Skills USA. So again, we're adjusting, but I'm really loving the whole competition aspect of it, because it gives students more opportunities for them to advance to nationals. Whereas in Skills, if you won the culinary competition, you were the only one. There was no other way of doing it. But this gives them way more opportunities and more competitions for them to compete.
And CCAP stands for?
It's culinary arts through Oh, Careers Through Culinary Arts Program.
Just wondering.
Careers Through
It's,
Culinary Arts Program.
CCAP is a big deal
It's
in
huge.
that
It
world.
is huge.
It is a big deal.
It is huge. It is, and it's amazing.
So to say they had a winner is just phenomenal.
Yes.
Sounds like we need to go out there for lunch or dinner or something.
We will have you out, we will have you out.
Anna, what year are you in?
I'm in 10th grade.
10th grade, and
Yeah,
do you plan to go into this field, or?
yeah, I do.
So Anna can take 2 years of culinary arts. We have a culinary arts program, and actually, even it's the only other program in the state that has bacon and pastry. Our bacon and pastry teacher could not be here tonight, but so Anna can then take 2 years of bacon and pastry, and so she will get the cooking and the baking and pastry.
And that's what I'm seeing a lot of students do that. They're going to culinary arts 1, culinary arts 2, and then they're going to the bacon and pastry. Or they can, go to culinary 1 and then do bacon and pastry, and then come back to culinary 2 and then do the bacon and pastry 2 as well.
It's got a whole world out there.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Walker, and he is from Verado High School. And this is where the fun really starts, because Mr. Walker and his students have been competing in the Rocky Mountain and National Emmy competition, but I will let Mr. Walker take over.
Thanks. Thank you for letting us come tonight.
I'll put the escape is down here.
Okay. So we've been participating in the Rocky Mountain Emmy Association's annual contest. This is our third year, so it's by school year. So we submitted stuff this past summer. We just got our nominations for this year. And essentially what we got was 12 nominations in 10 categories this year, which was phenomenal considering, like culinary arts, most of our program and teaching last year was all online. We had to completely restructure the way we taught stuff, switch to online editing programs using Chromebooks and all that, but the kids were still able to produce some phenomenal content and didn't really skip a beat. We still competed in Skills USA. We still had a national competitor in broadcast news. So I was really thrilled with that. This past, I guess last year, we got 2 Emmys, and I brought one. This is what they look like for the high school category, which is pretty cool. And this is Brian. This happens to be one that he got last year for Best Director, and we have his short film Flicker that he made that won this particular award in Best Director. And to kind of keep in mind, the Emmys are structured regionally, so the Rocky Mountain region consists of all of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and what they call El Centro, California. So pretty much everything south and east of LA. So it's a pretty big deal. It's open to any high school. So, and then last year we also had 2 national nominees. So anybody that wins a Rocky Mountain Emmy, those get sent off to New York, and the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences evaluates those. We didn't win one at the national level, but we did get 2 nominations, which was still a huge deal. I mean, it was the only 2 for the whole Rocky Mountain region. So they were excited about it. I think it was like the first time. So it's cool. So we'll watch Brian's little short film, and then he can talk about it. can see, we do what you would consider live film production video, but we also do a lot of animation out at Verado, and we've traditionally been pretty successful with that as well. And so with that, I'll introduce Brian, who has received out of the 12 nominations we got at Verado this year, 4 of them are his. So,
Switch to the screen real quick. Then go to the next screen. There you go. There you go. I wanted you to see these while Brian spoke.
Okay, well, my name is Brian, and as you saw, that was the film that got the award. And I was not expecting it to win, but I remember I was sitting in my bedroom, and I remember I had to do a project for the Emmys. And I was sitting there with the page, and I actually had the project's ideas, and I thought, what if I made a film of me thinking of what I'm gonna do for the film? And I remember I saw the 2 lamps that I did because I had done an animation previously to that, and I had used the lamps for the lighting. And then I remembered, like, oh, I remember the Pixar lamp from, like, the Disney movies, and I was like, that'd be funny if I used the 2 lamps and I kind of had them interact with each other and have that as my idea. And also another note is that all the noise that you heard in the film I did, like, separately. So none of the noise that you saw in the video was, like, actually in the video. So I also did some work in, like, some Foley and stuff. And I mean, other than that, like, throughout the whole 3 years that I've been in the class, it's been pretty fun, and I've learned a lot of skills with using the cameras, using the audio, and even since I was younger, I'd get, like, Lego minifigures when I was younger, and I would actually get my, like, old, like, DSi, like, old console, and I would take pictures of them, and then I would just hold the scroll button, and I would have them, like, play out as animations. And that was the thing that I do when I was younger, so now getting to actually make something more professional and get, awarded for it is really cool and, really fun. So
And what's in your future?
I mean, I'd like to write my own stories. Probably work in some, like, live action stuff. Like, I like doing more of, like, sci-fi and thrillers, and then I also do animations on the side. So I'm into that type of stuff.
when did it occur to you that lamps have the same callous, cold demeanor as cats?
sometimes you gotta use what you got.
Yeah. I didn't know that lamps were that mean.
Honestly, I think it's more interesting to make things on a budget because it makes you more. It makes you think of how you could make it more creatively. Yeah, and so, I sat in my bedroom. I looked at what I had, and I said, "Okay, this is what I'm doing." So
Nice.
That's good.
Good job, Brian. You just keep going. And many of the people in this room know that I have a grandson that did what you did at the Peoria High School. In the last 5 years, he's been with CPS Survivor with his own apartment in the Fijis. And they just sent him to an island in Panama for a new series. So it all started there and went to Walter Cronkite and then on. But, your creativity, I even liked your music. It was very, very creative. And the first jobs he had, he did not have the opportunity to be real creative. But his new job, he actually gets to create. And just stay with it. You've got the talent. Keep doing it.
thanks.
Well said.
All right, so as we continue with our theme with film and TV, we've had quite a bit of fabulous things happen in our various school districts. So next I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Seeker and his student to come up and talk to you about the All-American Film Festival nominations that are happening, and I think they're doing them for us. Yeah.
I can play both. Okay. Okay.
This is Abby's.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm Jeff Seeger. This is Tony Acevedo, one of our students. I've had Tony. So I'm at Canyon View, and we're a newer school, so we've only been around. This is our first year with seniors. So we kind of added a grade each year, so this is our 4th year. And like Mike was saying, like last year, as you saw, we had, a a number of challenges, like just being online most of the year. So a lot of what you see here was students. One of the great things about our class, and if you ever come out to our campus, is like it's really collaborative in film and TV. So the students often work together. And probably the biggest challenge we saw last year is they couldn't because they were isolated at home. So the first one, we had two students. They did really well in a competition, in a few different competitions that were in. The most recent one is this All-American Film Festival that we entered for the first time. The first category is Abby. She couldn't be here tonight. She's at a golf match, but so I'll play her video first because it's only a few minutes long, but it's a vlog. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of vlogs, but that's like a big thing with students now. So this is her vlog, kind of a day in the life of a student, you know, in quarantine and playing golf. So.
It's currently 7:15 in the morning and it's a Monday. In this video, I'm gonna be showing you what a week in my life looks like due to hybrid learning due to COVID-19. I'm going to show you one day at home, which is virtual, and I'll be showing you one day at school.
The videos, and I'll repeat this again for those of you just showing up, don't worry. Abby Morris?
Here.
Abigail, yes? Okay. Negative 5 times x minus 14, well we know x squared plus.
I'm joining my AP US History class.
Okie dokie, Abby, good luck.
She wished me good luck. Guys, look at Emily's new shoes. Fire! I'm back. Two of us did really good. I shot one over. One of my other teammates shot even. Hey everyone, it's Friday. I am going to school, so you guys get to see that today. So let's get into it. Wave.
It doesn't do that. You gotta smile with your eyes.
I know, I do that all the time.
It's very different not like having half my friends at school wearing masks all day, and I really hope you guys enjoy watching that. Bye!
So yeah, that was Abby's video, and another one I'll show you is Tony here. This is his, and Abby's video and both Tony's were actually part of a larger. Her whole vlog was, I think, 8 or 10 minutes long, but she had to scale it down a little bit for this. And then Tony's is actually, he did a documentary. I'll play it. I'm only gonna play the first part of it, like a minute or so, or a couple minutes of it, just to introduce it, and then I'll let Tony kind of talk about what he did. So.
Of considerable storage in the wood.
Many of these complete camera outfits by Kodak.
We changed to protect the innocent.
When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything.
Well, I've seen too much. Well, we'll try and keep up.
America, the modern day. The year is 2021, and now more than ever, we bury our stresses and worries into the most dominant form of escapism: entertainment and media. We as Americans consume this media on an average of 463 minutes, or over 7.5 hours a day.
Americans are infatuated with media and entertainment because it's an escape. I think a lot of us, especially in our culture, work a lot. Like you see people working, over 40 hours a week in a lot of cases. And so when they get done with that, they just want to chill and relax and unwind. And I think media, movies, concerts, sporting events are the way most people do that. Just because you can just sit there and not have to think, not have to, you can almost just get out into another world for those, couple hours.
So it's safe to say that many would consider entertainment to be a crucial part of their lives. But where did this infatuation with entertainment begin, and how has it influenced the American people as a society? To find that answer, we need to take a peek at 2 points in American history where culture was booming.
Pause it there, kind of a good stopping point, but I'll let Tony talk about it, and also, so these 2 videos were submitted, they're actually part of a bigger competition, All-American Film Festival, and so they have the opportunity now to go to New York City in about another month or so to compete with other students from across the country, so I'll let you.
Well, hello everyone, I'm Tony Acevedo. I'm a senior at KMU High School, and I'm also in the TV and Film CTE program, and that was part of my documentary for, which it wasn't even really meant to be the American Film Festival at all. It was originally meant to be my AP US culminating project, which I kind of fine-tuned and edited to end up turning into the film festival. And really, starting this project was kind of a massive stress because I had such big ideas. I didn't really know how properly to execute them at first, so I really thought about things I wanted to focus on in this documentary, which was a lot of television, a lot of film, how we consume that, the statistics of it, and really how to take it back, in the past, and then also how that correlates to the present and possibly the future. So at first I thought about movies that I really enjoyed, classics that you saw there, and particularly how I was going to edit it all together, because part of the worry was that I had to film all of this in person, but really I went to a few free use websites and got some really good B-roll and some really good audio to put all of this into and really make it into one culminating project in the end, which a lot of my classmates really enjoyed, and I really appreciate the support from them and my teacher, Mrs. Nondorf, my AP US teacher. So yeah, that was my daily programming documentary. Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, so the cool part about Tony and Abby, as you saw in some of the other students, is they really can take the class, and I think Mike and Paul would speak to this too. The students really take the class and just do whatever they want. You see, Mike's student doing film, some students doing documentaries, blogs. Some of my class are really into sports, and so they'll focus on that or other things. So they really have a lot of freedom, which is probably the coolest things. I think a lot of times as teachers, we like to tell them hey, this is what you're doing. But as they grow through the levels in our classes, they can really pick something and choose something they enjoy and kind of do something more along those lines. So, cool. Any questions for Tony or?
Okay, thank you. Great, right? And
Thank you.
Jeff is also doing a pilot on sports broadcasting for our district too. So all of our teachers are so busy. Next, and the last one, I'm sorry it's taking so long, and thank you for being so patient, but we've had some great things happening in our free school district. And I haven't been here for 2.5 years, remember that. So we have Film and TV and Mr. Paul Hopridge, and the Film and TV industry update that West-MEC sponsors, and he's gonna talk to you a little bit about that with Mike and Phil.
Yeah,
I'm here.
yeah, Mike too. First of all, I think that students like that are such an inspiration, and I love seeing their passion. I see it in my classroom as well. And it actually reminds me of myself. I was in my high school television and film class. I've loved this stuff ever since I was little. And back in those days, we were editing on Super VHS with giant tape decks. And obviously the technology has changed, and it continues to change and continues to change. And I I was 2010 Arizona Filmmaker of the Year. I've done a lot of freelance stuff, worked on a lot of stuff, and through that, gained some relationships. And when I first heard about the industry update, I thought, oh wow, it might be really cool to, work on a set nowadays, learn the new technologies, the new ways of doing things. So I reached out to an old friend of mine who was the 2011 Arizona Filmmaker of the Year, Brian Skiba, who's doing very well for himself. We used to compete in film challenges and things in the Valley, and now he's living out in the LA area, and he really got started doing those Christmas movies that you see on Lifetime and Ion and Hallmark, which is big business. And he got really good into that, but his love is like action movies. And so he produced a movie with, or directed a movie with Ryan Phillippe called The Second, which was the #1 selling film on iTunes, a few months ago. And so I was talking to him back and forth. He said, oh, I might have this project or that project. And it went, kind of up and down, and we didn't know if we were going to do it or not. And then he was like, oh yeah, into July, we're going to do it. Like just, the film wrapped maybe, 5 days after the first day of school, something like that. That was when the wrap was. So there's a movie called Pursuit, and starred John Cusack. And if you know from the old 80s movies, Better Off Dead and Say Anything, things like that, Grosse Point Blank, so pretty big star. Also had Emile Hirsch and Jake Manley and Elizabeth Ludlow, who are on, they have some Netflix series that are pretty popular. And so this was a big deal. It was in Little Rock, Arkansas area. And so Bill and Mike and myself, we flew out there and helped make a movie. I was a second assistant director. And Bill, you can see him carrying some rails up there. He was a grip, so he got a lot of heavy lifting. And Mike was production assistant and like second as well. Second assistant director. And so we worked with an awesome crew. And it's not as glamorous as you would think. It was 12 to 14-hour days.
What was 16?
We did have a 16. In the Arkansas heat, it was 97 with 60% humidity, and we're just not used to that humidity living here. Long days, but really awesome, and we made awesome connections. We worked with one of the guys there was the lead stuntman on Mandalorian. So he said he died 38 times in the first season. Another one of the guys there coordinated all the stunts for the movie Tenet, if you're familiar with that one. And another guy on the last Terminator movie was Schwarzenegger's stunt double. So like people are doing real big stuff. And so we made those connections, and it was a really, really awesome opportunity. And West-MEC helped us make that happen through the industry update program. So thank you for that. You have any questions for me or Mike? Mike was there too.
Yes, I was.
And I'd like to thank Stephen Welsh, because when we first started this, the industry update had to stay locally here in Arizona. And as the local director meetings, we asked him and said, why? What's the purpose of that when we have this opportunity in Arkansas? And Stephen was such a great support to us. I really appreciate that, and listening to the local directors. And so I'm going to just finish this up real quick. We want to thank you for your support for all of our CTSOs. Our students at Verrado High School placed second at the HOSA International Competition online with the Animatage competition. And the deal was that if they got first place, I was going to have to buy them one of these Animatage machines, and I think they're $20,000. And I have never been so happy our students got second place, because I was just really flippant during curriculum writing, saying, oh yeah, you guys are going to nationals? Sure, if you take first, I'll buy you one. And phew, that's all I got to say. And so again, our FRIA as we grow. As you know, like I said, we have our new superintendent, Mark Easlis, and the one thing that I find very refreshing is that Mark knows that CTE is the way to go for our students. It's very important to him that our students are employable when they get out of high school. And I put a welding there, and I try to put the Owlfree Owls over that little helmet because in talking with him yesterday, he said, and we have a transportation building that's going to be empty pretty soon on the Owlfree campus. He goes, what about welding? Can you get me statistics on welding? And I know West-MEC has a welding program too, but we may have to look into that. So I put that up there for Mr. Eastless. So I want to thank you for your time tonight. Enjoy the popcorn, and I hope you've enjoyed a night at the movies with your family. And we appreciate you.
And isn't this a new district logo as well?
Well, yes, I might be in trouble for this one, but that's okay. I'll apologize. We have, at the board meeting that I'm not at, that's probably over by now, they were voting with two different district logos, yes, and they're replacing it. And so I took a screenshot of the one I liked the best.
Sorry to ask the question.
That's okay. Several people happened to walk in my office when this was up, and I was like, oh, this has been voted on? And I'm like, no, it's just hopeful thinking. And nobody told me to take it down, so you got to see it tonight. So I hope this is the one. These are our new colors, though. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you again, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Thank you very much. We're going to bring up the City of Buckeye, and we're going to hold off on professional development to allow for some scheduling.
So, good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Donovan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Dave Broderick. I'm the Economic Development Director and the Deputy City Manager for City of Buckeye. I appreciate you allowing me to go in here. I have another board meeting to go to after this one, so no rest for the wicked here. I'm going to give you just a quick overview of what is happening in Buckeye. We are obviously one of the most dynamic cities, in the country. By some context here, 642 square miles. Buckeye is larger than the city of Phoenix geographically. And in the census numbers that were just released last month, Buckeye turned out to be the fastest growing city in the entire country. So we are seeing incredible growth in the community, incredible amounts of new development taking place, and we expect that to really escalate. Some population numbers, again, the census came out at 91,000, although we believe right now we're about 106,000. But we are expected to continue to grow dramatically in the coming years, up to almost 200,000 by 2030, 300,000 by 2040, and so on. So it will continue to escalate. The reason for the growth, and this map is hard to read, but basically if you look at yellow areas on this map, those are the areas, private developable land, where you are going to see the majority of development take place in the future. And you can see Buckeye has the most yellow land of any community. The rest of the valley is really hitting build out in a lot of communities. So growth is going to continue to push to the west. These are just some of our average demographics. We characterize Buckeye as a solid kind of middle class community, a significant amount of diversity, pretty good education level. About 65% have had at least some college or more. Our workforce, so the number one priority in the city right now is attracting jobs to the community. That is, the council has indicated their very top priority. We have a significant issue in terms of our jobs housing balance. We have far more housing in Buckeye than we have jobs, so it's really skewed, and so we are trying to attract employment for the citizens of Buckeye. The labor force, you can see the numbers here. Because we're in a reverse commute situation, we can pull people from a great distance away. So within a 45-minute drive time during rush hour, We have a labor force currently of about 1.5 million people, but that's going to continue to grow again because of the growth that we are seeing in this area. A couple of quick heat maps. This is where people who work in Buckeye live, generally on the west side. But the one I find most interesting is where Buckeye residents work. These are people that live in Buckeye that, where are they working in the valley? You see that very, very strong corridor along the Papago Freeway. And as you know, if you drive the Papago in the morning going in, how congested it is. It's probably the worst freeway in the valley in terms of congestion. And again, we hear from residents all the time that say, if there were only decent jobs in Buckeye, we would absolutely love it. It would save us a couple hours commuting every day. We don't want to have to drive to downtown or Sky Harbor or any of those places to get decent jobs. So that's really where we're focused. A sampling of some of the major employers. The largest is soon to come. We just announced about a month ago a major company called Core Power. They manufacture lithium-ion batteries like for cars, electric cars, and so on. They will be coming and have approximately 3,000 jobs in Buckeye, so that's brand new. Have several that are under construction or currently underway. We just opened last month. Five Below has a new distribution facility, 300 jobs. And we see a lot of competitive advantages for Buckeye. We're, again, in the path of significant growth coming forward, a very diverse and qualified local labor force that's looking for jobs near their homes. Again, they don't want to spend a couple hours commuting, so that's great. West-MEC has been a wonderful partner for us in terms of job training opportunities. It's a real resource, and we really truly appreciate what you do in the Southwest campus out there. Great transportation. It works extremely well for logistics companies, low-cost environment, and so on. The disadvantages that we see, though, are a lack of infrastructure. Because we are growing so quickly, it is very difficult to keep up with infrastructure demand, so we're working on that. We also have been kind of a victim of our own success. We do not have any vacancy at all in any industrial or office building in Buckeye. So we're encouraging developers to build new speculative space. They're finally doing that, but a lot of the prospects we deal with want to have an existing building to move into. Quality of life factors, there are a variety of things that Buckeye has done very well. For example, we have one of the lowest crime rates in the valley. We have more parkland per capita than any other city in the valley. We have a lot of assets like the White Tank Mountains in the middle of the city, and so on. So these help to create a great quality of life. Geographically, employment is going basically in 4 corridor areas. The first one is what we call the I-10 corridor. Basically, as you enter into Buckeye, Perryville over to Verrado, there's been quite a lot of new development happening there. The second one is our Miller Road corridor, Miller and I-10. That's where the new Five Below facility is. LGE's building a huge 1 million square foot building there, and so on. Our traditional area is along the railroad tracks. It's number 3. That's where we have our current largest employers, such as the Walmart Distribution Center with 1,300 jobs. And then the future is really what we expect out around Buckeye Airport, area number 4 there. So these are the areas where we're going to continue to see significant growth take place. In terms of the future, we're seeing a huge increase in the number of prospects coming into the community. There are a lot of employers looking for larger tracts of land, and literally we're starting to run out, even into Goodyear, they're starting to run out of land for larger projects. So because of that, they're going further out and they're coming to Buckeye. We are primarily seeing manufacturing and distribution activities. But again, longer term, we see developing a major logistics center near the Buckeye Airport. We're talking roughly 50% of our prospects today are companies that are currently in Southern California, and they are all saying the exact same thing. We got to get out of California. It's gotten too congested, too regulated, too expensive, too crazy, and they're coming. They're looking for places close to California because they still need to serve that market, but they don't want to be in California anymore, and that's going to be part of our significant growth into the future. So this is just some stats. So the total number of prospects over the last 4 years, and you can see how quickly it is ramping up there. The number of those that actually located in Buckeye, but most significant would be the number of new jobs. And you can see, we've been averaging, between 200 and 800 jobs a year. This year, we're expecting to add 5,800 jobs to Buckeye, and we expect that number to continue to increase every year. So we see a lot of opportunities. A lot of these companies, again, are looking for job training skills. They're looking for a local trained workforce that can meet their requirements, and we see a lot of opportunities for a continued and expanded partnership with West-MEC as a result. The other thing we're doing is focusing on retail and services to support the growing community. We have far less retail than every other city in the valley, and so we're really trying to attract those to provide for the residents. Generally, the retail is going into the areas along I-10, with one exception up at Indian School and Jackrabbit. We've got significant new retail going in there, but the rest of it tends to be along Interstate 10. And then these are just some of the blow-ups of the area. Our major commercial core right now is Watson Road and I-10, and that is literally about to be fully developed. We're running out of space in that area. So this is Indian School and Jackrabbit. We've got shopping centers going in on 3 corners there, so a lot of growth in that area. And then south on Verrado and I-10 area, a lot of significant larger growth going in there, big box stores and so on happening in that area, very close to the West-MEC campus there. And then Miller Road, again, seeing some of the activity happening along there. And in our downtown, which is finally starting to see redevelopment take place. So because we've reached 100,000 people now, that's the threshold a lot of retailers and service providers look at. And so we're really focusing on trying to attract these and attract the things that the citizens are asking for. We continue to see other activity happening. Right now, ADOT has begun widening I-10 in Buckeye, which is really important because it's been very congested out there. We are also planning for I-11 and State Route 30, which would be serving that area and would allow for future growth. And the city is doing significant major infrastructure improvements. We just will be completing next month a $100 million new water campus to provide significant amounts of water for the community, which is very important. We're making major street improvements. We're doing a whole variety of different things to support the growth in the community. So bottom line, we believe Buckeye is extremely well positioned for significant positive long-term growth. It will be probably the fastest growing area in the valley for decades to come, and we expect to see significant benefits from that growth as well. But a key part of that is the employment that we're really trying to attract to the community, and obviously having the support of West-MEC is a very important part of that. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
Yep, couple. So I've had reason to go out to Buckeye High School a few times the last month because I'm an ag teacher. It seems like there's no real good way to get to Buckeye. Like you the vestigial tail that's 303 dumps you onto a 2-lane farm road. If you take Verado, you go a couple miles and then it dumps you onto a 2-lane farm road, and it's like Buckeye, the town of Buckeye is trapped in this, is anything being done to do that, to fix that?
We are definitely trying to make those kind of improvements. It's very important. A lot of the street widenings happen as a result of the growth that is adjacent. So as development comes in, they're required to do their half-street improvements. We are seeing a lot of growth along the major corridors. There's going to be improvements at Verado and Yuma, for example. There are going to be improvements on Watson, south of our Watson commercial corridor. Same with Middle Road. It soon will be a 6-lane arterial. So we are trying, but again, it's expensive and it takes a lot of resources to make that happen. But we're definitely aware of it.
Second question, being involved in agriculture and knowing a lot of people in Buckeye, you're a lot of people's favorite person and a lot of people's least favorite person. Am I right? Like some of the old families are like, well, we don't want to grow, kind of a thing.
That is true, although a lot of those same families have for sale signs in front of their farms right now, and if someone comes in at the right price, they suddenly seem to change their tune. So there is no doubt agriculture is going to be displaced, and we're seeing a lot of the old farm families are moving further out to be away from that growth, and that will continue. But I will tell you the area south of I-10, along like Watson, Apache, Miller, those areas, literally all of those farms are now in the hands of developers. So it's, on the east side of 85, we're probably not going to see much agriculture in the future.
Changing times. Thank you for your presentation.
Dr. Fingarelli, you've always been talking about the attendance or the growth of Buckeye. Do you have any questions?
He's not online.
Oh, did we lose him? Okay. Anyone else?
I just want to say how proud I am of our planning on things like the Verado campus. And when we hear a presentation like this, it makes us understand we did the right things and for the right reasons. And I think our lesson is, we've talked, we had the gentleman in from Peoria or wherever. It's growing all around us. As a board, I think we need to sit down and start thinking about the future. I mean, we've heard about the Taiwanese chip factory, 100,000 homes here, 40 there, 50 there. I worry about the water, but I just think that we need to do some long-range planning as a board, because I don't know, being old, I don't think land's gonna get cheaper.
No, it's not. No,
But thank you for bringing us this.
Absolutely, and you are right. It is getting more expensive out there.
It's just fascinating to see,
Oh,
each city and how you're taking the challenge of growth. And there's a lot of cities that we're all seeing growth, which, like you said, is just terrific to see our community as a destination community for families.
Well, and then our ability to help hopefully provide a workforce and a gathering place, many things to become part of a community.
What area are they building at 3,000 employee plant?
That's down at State Route 85 and Baseline, so just about a mile west of downtown Buckeye. But again, these larger projects are all over. We're about to announce an 1,800 employee facility near Southern and Watson. We are currently shortlisted. I'm not all that hopeful, but we're shortlisted as one of 3 sites for an electric vehicle manufacturing facility that would be 10,000 jobs, and that's just off of Verado, south of your campus.
Well, then you could annex Gila Bend as a suburb.
There we go.
Mr. Chairman and Board, you might recall, I think it was about May or so when I said we were going to start this, and I really thought we should be looking for land out on 85. I said, so thank you tonight for just affirming what we began a few months ago, saying it's time to look, David.
We are very happy to work with you to provide, specific demographics or site information or anything else if you are interested.
one more question. You listed Palo Verde. Is Palo Verde in Buckeye?
Palo Verde is right on the edge, but technically no, but
Okay.
a vast majority of those employees do live
Sure, yeah.
in
So,
Buckeye.
but like it's in the Tonopah School District.
Right.
But it's like everybody overlaps kind of thing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
I'll
Thank
see
you.
you next meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we're gonna go back. I saw Spencer get up and I didn't know. So, Mr. Wakefield.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you and talk to you a little bit about professional development. First of all, I want to thank you in advance for your commitment to professional development for our central program teachers, for our satellite teachers, as well as for our West-MEC employees. I wanted to share with you the wonderful team that supports West-MEC professional development. We are few but mighty, and we just recently welcomed a newest member of our team, and we'll talk about the learning management system in just a moment. But what you don't see here are the 38 people that support professional development. Of all the courses, of all of the West-MEC U opportunities that we have, and so forth. There are 38 employees that come from our administrative staff, from our coaching staff, our instructional coaches, from the PD staff, as well as some teachers that do some training for us. So it takes a large number of people to run West-MEC professional development. Many of the things that we're involved in support our member districts as well as our teachers. One of the reasons that the professional development department was created was to assist teachers in that certification process. And as you well know, we have the Premier Series that we call our certification series, where we have approximately 28 classes that we teach that are approved through the Department of Education to allow teachers to earn their full teaching certificate. Many of these teachers, as you well know, come from industry. They don't know the world of teaching, and they rely heavily on us to help them through that process. In addition to the training that we offer, we have a certification assistance. We have a great relationship with the Department of Education in helping the teachers understand the deficiencies that they have to make up, that pathway that they can get through that process. And so we do spend a significant amount of time working with teachers. This last year, we helped 11 West-MEC teachers through that certification process, and approximately 20 teachers from our member districts understand what they are doing and then how to work through that process. And then one of the big things that we've been working on across the state is that of teacher recruitment. As you know, we are in a teacher shortage, not only in classrooms across the state and the nation, but that includes CTE as well. And so in helping teachers that understand the certification process, we've allowed teachers, and through this process, put them in classrooms where there was a shortage. And then to benefit programs across the state, we work using Zoom to provide an opportunity to let people know from industry that it is possible for them to be teachers through our teacher recruitment. This year, I think we have about 12 different recruiting seminars that we're hosting.
Mr. Wakefield, I've been doing this for a long time, and you said that you're going to help people know what they're supposed to be doing. Can I get some of that?
We'd be happy to help you.
Every day I feel like, what?
But it is interesting that it is, with a great relationship we have with the Department of Education, people get certified, they don't understand what they have to do, they don't know who helps them do that. And so it's a great need that is out there, and so to your point, it is important. This is a list of the courses that, in conjunction with our C&I team, that we have created what they call the TIA series that you're well familiar with, as we encourage teachers to work through this process or a program of work. And these are listings of some of the 28 classes that we offer. This last year, when I came to you a year ago, we were just jumping into the Zoom environment, and we made the decision to move to Zoom for the year, which displaced all of our daytime classes. So we taught from 4 to 6 o'clock at night. It took 4 nights to get through a class, but we worked with our member districts to ask, is that something that would help them? Through that virtual environment, you can see some of our participants here. We offered 27 classes times 4 nights, which was a lot of nights in the evening. Over 350 participants. And then in June, when we made the decision to come back in person, we hit it hard with 13 classes across the month of June and almost equaled our number in 1 month that we took for the year. So you can see some of the engaging activities that we have people involved in the month of June. We also offer integration of technology, which is, we've moved beyond this idea of how do you use the tech tools, but how do we integrate them into the teaching? And so with Patrick Clausen has done a great work with putting some of these trainings together as well as some others. And you can see some of the tools that we use here. We didn't slow down in the face of COVID with the number of classes and the number of people that participated. Much of this was done in that asynchronous environment where participants could work away from an instructor to complete the training. And then one of the heavy hitters that we have is the Student Services Department. You can see that they bring it home with the number of people that they have attending their trainings. Some of their big trainings are the ESS Summit, where they have over 100 people attend, and many of these timely trainings that they have to help people, help counselors, to help others understand their roles as they help with 504s and accommodations. They continue to work helping people, our member districts. So they offer our trainings through our registration system as we partner with them. And then equally, we have some trainings that we continue to provide with an emphasis on safety. As you know, it's a district initiative to have OSHA 10 certified employees. Our goal is 100% of our employees and board members. So in October, we have an online training for OSHA 10. If you're interested, we'd love to provide that for you. But that would give you an opportunity to see some of the quality training that we have. And then also mentioned a little bit tonight was this suicide prevention training. Shelley Tom has done a great job. We are at about 85% of our employees have that training with the goal to go beyond. So these are two of the big trainings that we help support for safety of our employees and our students. And then you do know that we continue to work towards certifications for our students, both member students as well as central students. And you can see that although we did have a reduction in our certification opportunities because of COVID, we still were able to amass a number of certifications for central and satellite students. So through OSHA and then NC3, we were able to provide continued certification. So all of these things are wonderful, wonderful opportunities that we have. One of the other opportunities that we have, as Spencer talked about, these legislative priorities, is a think tank. We have 4 think tanks a year, and on September 23rd, we will have our national and state legislative priorities think tank. It is a virtual think tank where we will present the legislative priorities for the state that the CTED superintendents have got together and agreed upon. And we will have many legislators in that virtual session. We will be introducing these priorities to them, and this all comes to you as we think about these think tanks. You can see the other dates and topics that we have throughout the year. Our goal in November, February, and April is to be in person, so we'll be at Northwest. The plan is for Northwest Campus for these other trainings. And that is for all people to participate in. And what I share with you now, as you well know, is what we call West-MEC U. West-MEC U are trainings and courses for our employees. Our employees are a valuable part of our district, and we center these trainings around what we call the skill sets. We have 8 skill sets that have been a part of West-MEC, and we provide training throughout the year. And you see here just a few of the trainings that we have. This is our fall offering of trainings. Last year, we had 97 completers, so 97 people and enrollees in our courses completed these various trainings. And these are unique opportunities that are provided by our employees as we think about continuing to build capacity of our people as they continue to do the good work at West-MEC. And all of this comes together. We believe that we make a better us by working on you. And our hope is to continue to build a better you. We've had a few accomplishments this year, and I'll just briefly go through these. As you know, it's not easy to just move to the online environment, and so we feel it's a huge accomplishment to redesign 13 of our courses to the online environment. That was a large undertaking that took many people across the district to make that happen. I mentioned to you the alignment of our West-MEC U courses to skill sets, and we have implemented a learning management system, Canvas. We have a pilot program that we're in the midst of where we're working with our new technician as a part of our team to build out what this will be. We anticipate a launch towards our students in August of 22. You've heard 2 wonderful success stories tonight from Industry Update. Mr. Contreras, and then as we like to call them, our movie dudes from Agua Fria, who utilized Industry Update, which is an opportunity for us to get those teachers into industry, as Mr. Contreras talked about how he went, although he came from industry, he went back after a number of years to retool himself up to be prepared for them. And so we helped to facilitate that process. And Ann Weisner was very gracious, but she pushed us in some good ways to allow us to rethink how we do that. So kudos to her and her persistence with making it fit for them. And then we have continued to refine our CTSO officer training. We, in the face of COVID, had to go to the virtual environment. And as we went through that process, we're working to turn over the responsibility of much of that training to our advisors, our satellite, as well as our central campus advisors. And then the last major accomplishment that I will show you is Frank Quinn using technology. But Frank was a hero in developing and really pushed OSHA 10 into using this virtual environment. And so we were able to receive a specialized opportunity to provide this OSHA 10 training virtually, and this is how we do our OSHA 10 training for our employees. This was an employee training that was early on, and it increases the capacity of us to provide that. But a huge win as we think about how we provide this training in this new environment. And this will be something that will last post-COVID as we think about how we do our online training. And as we close, I just wanted to say thank you for your commitment to allowing us to use Zoom as an environment for learning. 6 million plus minutes we've spent on Zoom, including meetings like this. This is August to August. 94,000, and these are duplicate repeating participants, which include students, board members. This could be a strategic planning meeting where we were on Zoom. As you see, greater than 4,000 meetings and over 100 active West-MEC employee users. So it's a well-used tool to continue to deploy quality instruction. And then a new thing we've done with Zoom through Career Services is that Maya and her recruiters have hosted some webinars in the month of July. So thank you for your commitment to utilizing Zoom as we take the best and provide it for our students.
I've got a silly question, but how do you count all that?
Zoom does it for us.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, because it'd have to be. I mean, the minutes and the participants and, yeah, I'm thinking Somebody
have
sitting
a-
there with a book.
When we went into the Zoom environment, we quickly grabbed the lowest tier of the business license. So we have 20 pro licenses, which allow us some flexibility, but we have this dashboard where we can see all of these things. So it has been a huge opportunity for us, and we know that this will continue.
So there was a lot of growth that did come out of this little virus.
We're hoping to capture the best of a horrible thing. So thank you for the comments. And we continue to maintain industry certification partners through the Professional Development Department. As you know, we have a couple trainings a year with the American Welding Society, where we have certified welding instructor training and certification. People come to us from across the nation. This next Monday and Tuesday, AWS will come to us for some training. And then, as you know, we are well involved with NC3 with Train the Trainer. Train the Trainer 2 years ago occurred at Southwest Campus. We had over 100, I want to say 125 participants from across the nation, and they use our facilities for training. We anticipate them returning this year to expand to not only Southwest Campus, but to Northeast Campus. So it's a great opportunity for us to expand those partnerships.
AWS, that's Amazon?
AWS, those are their
American
servers.
Welding Society.
American Welding Society. So I
Amazon
apologize.
Web Services is using this?
That's the certified welding instructor training from AWS. It's a national teacher thing.
And one of the wonderful things is that we are permitted to have our teachers attend some of these trainings because of our hosting, because we host this for them.
Would you get to attend that?
I don't, because it happens when I'm actually teaching, but both Delphina and Eric Fee are certified welding instructors. But part of that certified welding instructor is they have to keep their cert up, and so then they get to participate. That by hosting this, then they get to participate. They get to keep their certified welding instructor training current.
Yes.
Did I do that? Did I do good? Yeah? All right. Woo-hoo.
So these partnerships are valuable to us as we continue to move forward and work with industries across the nation. And we've done all of this as we've maintained what we now call our online Likert score. This is the recommendation to, or the likelihood to recommend. So we believe that our training is high quality. I met with a gentleman who was going through the certification process this last week, who had actually, his certification had lapsed because he didn't understand the process. And he said, essentially, I don't know where I would be without West-MEC. I don't know where I would be without the professional development that prepared me, because now he is in a subbing environment and working on maintaining all of getting these deficiencies so that he can then be a certified teacher. And we try to capture these anecdotal stories about success, but he just couldn't say enough wonderful things about West-MEC. So I wanted to thank you for that. And the last thing I'll leave you with tonight is just a feel-good story. We often don't know where our influence ends. And this is a picture of a teacher in Central Asia. Two pictures of a teacher in Central Asia who is utilizing West-MEC training as she is helping Uzbekistani teachers use instructional best practices. So we don't know the extent to the training that we offer and who can utilize this training, but a former CTE teacher, now retired, travels the globe utilizing these practices, and these teachers in another country will impart opportunities to new students. So I thank you for your commitment. We don't know where our influence ends. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Hay.
Thank you, Mr. Wakefield. A word I didn't see, I know we're doing it, is mentoring. So after they go through the training, after they do all that stuff, and then we throw them at a campus, what happens then?
Thank you for the question, and I do appreciate that. We work collaboratively with C&I department. As you know, we have coaches that work with our teachers, and so as they are taking these courses, and then they have essentially homework or deliverables. Our coaches are working alongside them on that, observing them on a regular basis, helping them with their lesson planning, with their delivery, and then having conferences. So this is a partnership with PD to provide the training, and then our teachers to take it, and then our coaches to work alongside them through this process as they work through that TIA series.
So let me throw out a challenge for you. I know me personally, I've known this my whole life. Every time I had to explain or teach a concept about anything to anyone, I then knew the concept better myself, right? I mean, that everybody's nodding, yeah? So if you ever had to explain something to someone else, whether it was your kid or your spouse or a buddy, or if you have to teach how to get to the right spot on your phone to a generation above you, you know that you have to stop and like, okay, how do I know how to push that button and where is that? And you got to tell them all that kind of things. Anyway, so I've always appreciated West-MEC's, the coach system and the coach model that we have, our instructional coaches, you know, that are planted at all the campuses. But I kind of feel like some of our teachers then are losing out on an opportunity to mentor, to be mentors themselves. So that maybe not the first year, second year, but that 5th year, 6th year, 7th year teacher that's in the classroom, they know lots of stuff, right? And they've experienced it, right? There's no better teacher than getting your nose bloodied. And so while I appreciate the coaches, I think sometimes maybe we should give it would be awesome to let those other teachers do some mentoring also, because then they learn it better, right? Every time I have to go explain the grade book to a new teacher, I find a new thing in the grade book that I didn't know was there, and I've been doing it for 20 years. But I mean, so I really love the coaches, and I think the coaches are valuable. And I'm not talking about getting rid of coaches, but I think we even maximize our coach ability if our coach's ability and our coach's bandwidth, if we start employing some of our more experienced teachers to be mentors too, because then they grow as mentors, build more connections around the school, and free up time for the coaches.
And I appreciate your insightfulness, and you're exactly correct, and we've recognized that. And so over the course of the last few years, and Steve might be able to speak more to this, but we have put some of those teachers who have been through some of this coursework, who do teach for us, who have that wonderful classroom, and who've lived that, work with our younger teachers. And so they have, although they're not coaches per se, they are mentors with other people, either on their campus or it could be different programs across campuses. So that is very insightful, but we are working towards that. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Very good.
Very good, thank you.
All right. Moving on. I believe we're on to item number 14.
We're finally caught up.
We're finally we're actually we're going to follow the agenda the rest of the night. So it's time for a motion to convene a public hearing.
I move we convene a public hearing according to ARS 15905.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded by Mr. Kay, motioned by Mr. Miglerino. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are now in executive session. Or wait, no, we're in public session. Yeah, whatever. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Not executive session.
It's been a long week.
It's only 7:02.
It's only 7:02.
Thank you, Chairman Strack and governing board members and Superintendent Donovan. As stated in statute, and I believe it's in your board book tonight, we can revise the budget at any time during the school year. We have to revise it because of the forms, the final forms that were published, and that falls under the revision statute. So before you tonight is the budget on the corrected final forms from the Auditor General. And as stated in there, we have had talks about the possibility of land purchases and Northeast Campus, some TIs and the parking up there. If on your budget sheets on page 5 of 8, all I really did was, and if you want me to.
How do you have budget sheets? Oh, you're looking at those, I see. I thought you were Mr. We're gonna do this all electronic guy. What happened?
I have the ones that we have to sign.
Oh, Mr. Straka.
I have them here too, but I'm scrolling
I'm
through
sorry.
200 pages.
Go ahead.
250, I think. This is probably page 251 or something-ish. Anyway, it's page 5 of 8, and all I did was in the initial adoption of the budget, I had all 10 million sitting in construction services under my capital outlay, and all I did was reallocate some of that money to Northeast Campus for TI and construction and parking and then possible land purchases. So the money didn't, or the amount didn't change, I just moved it around a little bit in case we purchased land and then did our improvements at Northeast Campus.
Makes sense.
So, that being said, that's the only other change to the budget, and they will be on the final forms, which we can upload tomorrow to ABE.
Okay.
And are there any other questions? The staffing allocation, I believe there was a question today on staffing. Originally, I would not want to revise that allocation right now because we don't know what programs we may or may not be coming back in the spring to hire for the fall. Programs may change. We still might hire a biosciences teacher. So I would hate to do that. I will make those adjustments at the May revision if need be.
Okay, so just for the board, my question was, you know, we have 170 hired now, but our budget is 194 or something. We're a fourth of the way into the year, and so those 24 positions aren't filled. When do we make the budget adjustment? And
And we
that's
can
what
still
May
hire
is
some of those positions because they're posted right now.
And then my only other question is, on the governing board, are you going to take Mr. Ellis off because that is a vacancy? When you list the.
On the signature forms.
On the signature page, you list all the governing board members?
It's off for next time.
Yes.
Oh, it's on the electronic.
Hey, no, this
It's on,
was.
yeah. It's, no, I see what you're looking at. Yes, I will fix that for you. Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
How many more times can we revise?
Every month if you would like.
We're gonna have a special board meeting.
We won't be doing
I
that.
would also ask for a staff increase to do the budget.
Sure, yeah.
She'll be hiring one of those.
Sorry, are there, well, sorry, I'm sure in all these years you've told me this answer, but I can't remember it, so I'm gonna ask again. Are there things that trigger a revision?
Yes.
Like?
Money?
No, I'm.
A windfall of money, no, budget cuts.
Okay.
The legislature.
Yeah, the legislature, all right.
If I inappropriately budgeted or projected and our numbers come in lower,
Sure.
the ADE will tell me I have to reduce the budget in December. We've had to do that a couple of times.
Because of the current year funding thing?
Correct.
Okay.
And then in May, I like to, most districts will revise a budget to bring our expenses in line with a budget, because the auditors like to ask us why we go over budget if we don't budget appropriately.
So let me, I guess this is the reason I'm asking the question, is just about every school district I've talked to, Mrs. Weisner just mentioned it, I know at Peoria, just about every school district in the West Valley is seeing an increased enrollment. So from the projected enrollment that we were seeing and kids signed up in May, June, to actual butts and seats in August, just about every school I've talked to has more students. So we built a budget based on kind of like what our enrollment is going to be. And I know that central enrollment's pretty fixed because, you know, applications and all that. But I'm going to tell you our CTE satellite enrollment's going to be up. And so we're probably going to, like in my mind, we should be seeing an increase, right?
Yes, if the numbers hold true. And and that's something we'll start watching. And in December, if those numbers are true, then we will revise up in December, and then we can also revise up in May. And all of that money is retro, so we wouldn't be losing anything if we wait
Okay,
to revise.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Public.
Oh, thank you.
Public.
Anyone from the public would like to ask questions about the budget?
Thank you.
Mr. Straka?
Yes, sir.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
Mr. Straka?
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt the budget revision as presented under item number 16.
Is there a second?
Second. I was just waiting to see if there's anybody on the phone left.
All right, it's been moved. Any other discussion? I'll call for the question. All in favor of the?
Oh, sorry. Should this be a roll call vote just because of what it is?
Yes, that's right. We have to do a roll call vote.
Jim Migliorino.
Yes, but we haven't voted on the revisions yet. Yes.
No, that's what this is. We're voting on the revisions.
We're voting on the revisions. It has to be a roll call vote.
Yes.
Barbara Wiley.
Yes.
Frank Stricken.
Yes.
James Kaltenbach.
Yes.
And it passes 4-0. All right, thank you, Ms. Thompson. And nobody leave because you'll need to sign the documentation.
So exciting.
All right, calendar of events. You'll see we actually have some in-person events, the ASBO conference in Milwaukee, and then we also have ACTE in New Orleans.
Sign that and I'll walk it over to Barbara.
Mr. Chairman, we're not
Yes.
quite sure what's happening with the ACTE due to Hurricane Ida. So as you saw originally, it was going to be a combination of hybrid and in-person. So things are very much up in the air with New Orleans because of the hurricane, just as a statement.
So it may be more hybrid, or it may be more virtual than
Yeah, it may
hybrid.
just be virtual.
All right.
They may unhybrid.
Yeah. Future agenda items.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that we definitely address the opportunity to purchase land on Glen Harbor Boulevard across from Central Campus next month at the request of the owners. Remember, they requested to sort of have this done by the end of the calendar year for their purpose. We have those documents, amounts and stuff in hand.
Okay.
So that will be coming next month.
Anything else?
Anything else?
There's a meeting next Tuesday, but I've got it written down, so.
All right, then that moves on to item number 19, and I will adjourn the meeting. Since I can.
Exercise.
I will exercise my right to adjourn the meeting at 7:12,
Thank you all very much.
and I'm the only one that signs these, right?
Yep, those.